Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's time to clap your paws, stomp your hooves, and ruffle your feathers.
Wayne, thank goodness you're all right. Is everything okay?
Honey, I shrunk the audience.
So when you hear the words, go for launch, you'll definitely want to hang out.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, WDW Radio will be right back after these messages.
WDW Radio, your information station.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the WDW Radio Show, your Walt Disney World information station. I am your host, Lou Mongello, and this is show number 333 for the week of August 18th, 2013. I'm here to help you have the best possible Disney vacation experience and bring you some Disney magic wherever you are with this podcast, my videos, blog, live broadcasts, special events, my Walt Disney World trivia books, CDs, and more. You can find it all over at WDWRadio.com. This week's podcast is brought to you by Audible.com, where you can get a free audiobook download at audibletrial.com/WDWRadio. There's more than 100,000 titles to choose from, including many Disney books. I'm currently listening to How to Be Like Walt, capturing the Disney magic every day of your life, so you can follow along with me and we can discuss and review it on the WDW Radio blog. Again, you can sign up for free, cancel anytime at audibletrial.com/WDWRadio. So this week, I invite you to join us for our roundtable discussion and review of last weekend's Disney's D23 Expo. We're going to go through all the pavilions, exhibits, presentations, concerts, and events, and talk about some of the highlights, memorable moments, and much more. We're also going to talk about our personal experiences, the WDW Radio booth, our live broadcast of the entire event and the special guests, and what we took away from the Expo as a whole. I'll then have the answer to our last Walt Disney World trivia question of the week and pose a new challenge for your chance to win a Disney prize package. Then stay tuned at the end of the show. I'll have some updates and announcements and more of your voicemails. So sit back, relax, and enjoy this week's episode of the WDW Radio Show. From August 9th through the 11th, 2013, thousands of Disney fans from around the world descended on the Anaheim Convention Center to be part of the third Disney D23 Expo. And enthusiasts whose interests ranged from everything from the Disney parks to Imagineering to TV shows and movies, collecting, fashion, everything in between came together as a community to celebrate all things Disney. And one of the most important parts may be that we came together in an environment that could be found nowhere else. And it was heralded as the ultimate Disney fan experience. And for those 3 days over that weekend, Disney fans were treated to the fun and the wonder and the adventure as the past and the present, and maybe even a little glimpse into the future, were all shared by Disney with their most devoted fans. And there was so much to see and so much to do, even beyond what you found inside the guidebook, because there was so much Disney magic being created by the attendees themselves. And I think since my experience was so very different than everybody else's, I think it would be great to have other people come on to share how they experienced and enjoyed the Expo and share their perspectives in the discussion as well. So this week, I want to sort of join some friends around the virtual roundtable to talk about our Expo experiences, what we liked, maybe what we didn't like, maybe what the future may hold. So I want to welcome to the virtual roundtable, Christy Visaki.
Hello there.
Mr. Tony Caggiano.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Scott Otis from Otisburg.
Greetings, everyone.
Susanna Mitchell from Xanaland and Xanacam.com.
Hi, everyone.
And my partner in some of the fun and festivities in the booth, Becky Mankin from MEI and Mouse Fan Travel.
Hey everyone, great to be here.
And I wish I could sort of bring in people who were there on the floor as well too, and give thanks and bring some people who were able to be part of the show and the Expo experience, because we were so, to a certain degree, confined, and I mean that in a good way, to the booth, right? And so I first want to give thanks to everybody who watched our live broadcast at D23 Expo Live all 3 days of the Expo. The idea was we wanted to bring as much of the Expo to you as possible, and hopefully that would incentivize you to come next time. And for me, I know that was a big part and one of the most exciting parts, and we'll sort of get to that as well too. But I want to sort of talk about with you guys the Expo in general, because I think everybody here for the most part has attended at least one, if not all three of the Expos. There was a lot of speculation going into this one in 2013, right? Because I think the standard and the level of expectation was set so high at the first Expo in 2009, and I'm not sure if it was maybe met in 2011 because there were no sort of earth-shattering announcements or major celebrity surprises. So I want to go around the table and ask you, before we talk about the Expo itself, what was your sort of expectation level going in, right? Did Disney do anything to tease or excite you specifically for the 2013 Expo? We'll go ladies first, Christy, and then Susanna, and then Scott, and Becky, and then Tony. You see what I did there?
I was very intrigued by all of the optimist talk in advance of the Expo and was trying to follow the blog and all of what was going on. And sadly, I didn't get to experience any of that directly, but heard a lot about that. And that sounds like a great experience and something that I'm hoping we might hear and see more kinds of experiences like that for Disney fans, either in the parks or at other events like that. So I felt that was a very effective means of getting people interested in the Expo experience.
What about you, Susanna?
I think this year, where we knew sort of ahead of time that there weren't going to be any huge announcements, but I think they did a great job of sort of incorporating all the different areas or brands, if you will, of Disney, all the different arms, into the whole Expo. So like Christy was saying with the Optimist, I mean, that was on the show floor. It was before you even got to the Expo. It was in the Imagineering little open house thing, and then you could have done a scavenger hunt over in the park. And then it was in the live action studios presentation as, the preview for the Tomorrowland movie. So that's just one example of the things that were spread all over the whole Expo rather than, some major announcement. It was sort of like the Expo as a whole gave you a little taste of everything. And I liked that it was more, I think, just geared for the, not the hardcore fans, but the fans that were into a bunch of different things rather than those looking just for the news and the, huge new announcements.
Scott, what about you?
I think for me, I was looking forward most to like the live action films and the animated films presentations that they had in the arena, as well as the Parks and Resorts exhibit done by Imagineering is always a knockout. So I was really looking forward to that.
Becky, what about for you? Was there something ahead? Now, obviously, knowing that we were going to be spending a lot of time in the booth, was there still something that was on the schedule or in the book or that you heard about that really sort of intrigued you?
Yeah, I was really actually looking forward to two things. The first one being how some of these rumors of all the next gen stuff coming in, so the Optimist and other things that we actually got to see in person, up close and personal. But I was also, while I was hoping for some big announcement, but we knew better than that, I was also looking forward to see how they were going to officially welcome Marvel and Star Wars acquisitions into the whole family as well, and then into the family of brands, to see how they could do that and still kind of keep it separate from, say, what they were doing with those same brands at Comic-Con. So that was kind of what I was interested in seeing.
And Tony, that's interesting, sort of bringing those brands into the family. Tony, what about for you?
Going into it, a couple of things I was looking forward to. Always looking forward to see what the Imagineers are working on. Everything new, even if it's not a major announcement as to something coming to the parks, it's always great to look behind the scenes and see what the new tech they're working on is. The announcement about the Sherman Mencken concert, I was really excited to look into that. And as someone who was at the last Expo, I was anxious, if not excited, to see how they managed the Expo as a whole this time, because they said there were a lot of improvements to how they were going to run things to ease lines and basically, like we always talk about, maybe doing less but doing it better kind of stuff. So I was really anxious to see how the actual logistics of the Expo went.
It's interesting how we all sort of came into it with different perspectives, but I want to touch on something that a few of you mentioned, because I think D23 did a good job of sort of getting us ready for and maybe setting those expectations before the expo started, right? Because like our vacations, they started the expo experience early with things like the Disneyland off the map contest, the fan art contest, the release of the expo app, which I thought was very. Did you guys, anybody download the app, and more importantly, did you guys use it when you were on the show floor?
Yeah, I downloaded it and used it. It was definitely easier to manage my schedule using that. It was very innovative.
Yes, I did too.
People, coming into the booth, looking at it and saying, "Oh, well, let me check what's coming up next." People who are coming in and out to just sort of visit. That seemed to be the source, not the book.
Right.
Which
Yeah.
is what I would
updates that it would pop up if things were full, like the little stage passes were gone or anything like that, or they'd tell you when things were happening on the show floor. It was really good.
Yeah, I mean, I love the guidebook. I think it's actually a very well done guidebook in the way they have it broken down, but you don't sort of have that access and being able to sort of schedule things out like you do in the app. And it was very interactive too. It was very interactive. It was more to it than just throwing the schedule up in front of you.
Yeah, I enjoy the guidebook because I'm a book nerd and I love having it in my hands and looking through it. There's something a lot of fun about that. But as a tool, I think that we referred to the app constantly, even when we were wondering, like, where are we going to take the box? What logistics for our own, running our own event while we were there? I looked at it every half hour practically, checking up on seeing what's the next move, what we could be looking to.
Yeah, and so I think about that first day, and obviously we got in early because we were setting up, and we saw, the show floor when it was almost a pretty bare convention center. So almost to a certain degree, Scott and Susanna first, because I think you guys came in from a different perspective, and then obviously those of us who were in the booth, I want to hear you guys too. Let's talk about what that day one was like, right? Let's talk about that energy, that excitement was like, both for yourself or what you saw from and heard from other people as well. And then what was it like when you came onto that expo floor, which, was somewhat overwhelming in a good way. There was so much going on. There was so much sensory overload. Were you drawn to any one thing? Scott and Susanna first, and then everybody else feel free to chime in.
Yeah, I was definitely overwhelmed. And I think because of how many great presentations there were this year, I avoided the schedule until I got there because I was like, I can't even think about which ones I really want to see and which ones I'm going to have to miss and things like that. So I was kind of overwhelmed and worried that I was going to miss out on some really cool things. But the expo, the show floor itself was really just full of so many things that I almost wanted, and by the end of the expo, I was like, I'd rather just skip that presentation and hang out on the floor and see the, Imagineering Pavilion again and just walk around to all the different booths and everything. So I can't even remember the first day now. It's been so long. It's like 2 weeks away. But
it was 6 days ago, but that's okay.
But yeah, I mean, it ended up being, it all worked out, and I wasn't overwhelmed for long because there was just always something to do, and it was always something I was happy that I ended up doing.
So just a quick question. When you first walked in, did you go right to a line for a presentation or the arena, or did you go to experience the floor first? Because it seemed to be sort of that, it was the race to space or the dash to splash. Everybody sort of split up one way or the other. A lot of people went right to the arena to start getting online or start getting their stage passes, and other people wanted to go into seeing the pavilions themselves.
Well, to be honest, I actually went straight for booth number 413, the and Travel and WDW radio booth.
That's because you needed to borrow cash, but that's okay. We understand.
But after that, we did, I guess that was the animation thing the first day. So yeah, we definitely wanted to see the two studios presentations the first and second day. So, and we were able to get into them.
Yeah, when I first went on the floor, you go through the little door, and just on the other side, there's all these massive booths, all trying to draw your attention with all of their, their gadgets and their video screens. It really was overwhelming. I was walking around the show floor in a daze, not knowing which way to go. I wanted to go that way, and then there was the Imagineering exhibit that way, and then they had the animation exhibit over that way. But I had to get in the line for the animation arena event. But yeah, it's incredibly overwhelming how much there was there.
Now I know Christy, Tony, Becky. Our primary focus was obviously the booth. But again, sort of your thoughts in terms of that show floor, that first, we were very much, quote unquote, in the trenches in terms of being out there before people came in, that level of excitement that you felt either from yourself or other people, and what that first day of the show floor was like.
For me, it was really amazing because we got in there a couple of days before the doors opened, and to see it come together slowly but surely. But as they were making the announcements that the public doors were going to be opening in 10 minutes, all of a sudden the noise and the lights and all the booths trying to turn on every noisemaker they possibly had to draw your attention, as you had said, Scott. It felt like the very first time I stood on the Las Vegas Strip with all the lights and the noise and the chaos and the crazy. It was really exciting to see everything come to life after watching it be wheeled in various anvil cases over the prior days.
Yeah, I think after being in the booth for 20 hours before I arrived on Wednesday and came straight over there. So Becky and Lou had put in more time, but after whatever it was, 20 hours getting the booth ready and seeing the floor come together, everything's happening out there, but it's a whole different vibe. It's like you come in the next morning and all those red carpets just appear, and it goes from being a big warehouse full of stuff to alive. And like Becky said, they announced that it's coming, and 10 minutes before it comes in, before everyone's coming in, it just comes to life. And we were standing there outside the doors going to get ready to see people come in. And as we're walking towards it, you could hear, it's just a hum coming up behind you of musicians start to play on the stage, and all of the interactive pavilions are coming to life with sound. It was pretty cool to see it come up like that from a bare cement floor up to alive.
Yeah, not to mention seeing the lineup of people that started at 4:30 in the morning out for the first day, and then seeing them all come in with those excited faces because they could hear on what was going on the floor, and you could see that they could hardly wait to grab their credential and get in those in the doors.
Well, I want to just touch on that real quick because, and again, Scott and Susanna, you might be able to speak to this more. I think the reason why there was the line starting very, very early in the morning the night before, the rush to get to the arena, the change of the layout, right? The collector's forum was moved. The whole show floor was laid out differently because of the expansion of the queues. Look, Disney obviously realized what needed to be changed and tweaked and very much improved upon from the last Expo, because the biggest complaint was lines, right? That was the operative word. That's what people were walking away with was, I stood on line, I didn't get in. I didn't know where to go. There was too many conflicts. So I think they seem to address that this year with things like Stage Pass, which is sort of a fast pass. Can you guys maybe speak to the line situation this year? Again, sorcerers obviously had their own, special access, but if you were just somebody who was on the floor and wanted to see some of those big presentations in the, for the studios and the legends and stuff like that, how did the lines work, and was it an improvement over past expos?
I think this definitely was an improvement over the last Expo. There still were incredible lines, at least for the major arena presentations, the animation, live action, and also the Menken and Sherman concert. But they did have a giant overflow room for all of the arena presentations, so that anybody who couldn't get into the arena presentation would see it on a giant screen. And they also, I believe, the stage 23 up on the third floor, they doubled the size of that, and it was a massive room. We had seen that for the Tony Baxter presentation. So a lot of the major, smaller presentations were up there, and so they were able to accommodate a good many people up there. Although I did hear, for the Broadway performance on the first night, that there were people lined up for that, and a lot couldn't get in. That's at least what I heard. But I still think that with Stage Pass, with the overflow rooms and the doubling of the size of that one room, that it was an improvement over last year.
Right, and there's nothing you could do about it. If you want to see something like those presentations, you are going to go and have to stand online. And we talked about that, in the past as people who were preparing for Expo. Again, level of expectation, and I think Disney also did a good job of letting you know, hey, if you want to see these things, this is what you're going to need to do. They also had sort of like a queue board up above the queue itself, letting you know, almost like a wait time board for when you could start lining up and getting stage passes for some of the things that were coming up later in the day, which I think was really, really helpful to people who may have been confused and or overwhelmed.
Yeah, I think the improvements there were huge compared to just last year. You would walk into some of these, not necessarily the arena because you could see the line, but you'd walk into some of the events upstairs, the presentations, and you just felt like you had no idea. You would sit in line. You don't know if you're getting in, if you're not getting in. You were just walking in blind. At least this time, you knew when you could go up and get your stage passes, they call them, which is for people who weren't there. It was basically a fast pass for the events to get you in line, so you didn't have to stand in line the whole time. But I thought they did a much better job with that. I think going into these events, if you think you're going to go there and there's not going to be any lines, you're really just kidding yourself. There's a lot of people, and a lot of people are excited to see these major events, and there's only so many. No matter how big the room is, there's still only going to be so many spots. But for the events that the presentations that I was able to go to, I thought that it was much better than last year, night and day almost.
Or to add to that, Tony, last year you didn't even know, you just saw a line and you would think, should I get in this line? Where is this line going? What does this line belong to? And people were just getting in lines figuring that, well, I'm going to get into something if I just at least get into a line. So I didn't see that happening this year. So it is kind of a hat tip to their new process seems to have at least had an impact.
Yeah, I did not hear any complaints. Like, I did not hear people saying, oh, my God, I stood online for 2 hours and I couldn't get in. I didn't hear. The only complaint I heard, and it's a good problem to have, is I didn't get to see everything I wanted to because the times conflicted. Because I couldn't get from A to B in time because I wanted to see Tony Baxter, I wanted to go see Marty Sklar, I wanted to go see this. So that was a good problem, I think, to have, as opposed to I waited online and I didn't get in.
Right. Yeah, I think the only negative thing that I ran into at all was for some of the arena presentations, and one that I actually tried to line up for as well. The folks on the floor, it seemed like they had so much great information with the stage pass. When it came to the events or the presentations that didn't have stage pass, the staff members on the floor had conflicting information about when you could line up or not. So it's almost if they could implement that same type of process onto the arena events as well, then they might even get farther into making happy guests.
I know for me, especially going in knowing from past experience that I wasn't going to be able to see most likely any or all the arena presentations except for the stuff at night. I was really focused on the show floor and the pavilions, and getting to go in there early, I felt like I was a kid peeking behind the stage at the candy store before it opened up, because Disney had, I think it was about 13 different pavilions. They had the Treasures of the Archives, Animation Studios, Disney Toon Studios, In-Home Entertainment, Parks and Resorts, the Disney Desk, Disney Vacation Club, Investor Relations, which I thought was interesting, Disney Citizenship, ABC Studios, Disney Channel, and Disney Consumer Products. And that, for me, is one of the big thrills of the Expo. And getting to walk through that first day and even a little bit beforehand and seeing the Marvel presence, right? The Star Wars presence, the big Darth Vader, the consumer product stuff, the interactive game things. I mean, I was really, really excited to, wander at a very fast pace the show floor. And that, for me, the pavilions has always been, even more so than some of the presentations, the big draw for me. Can you guys sort of talk, and maybe, I know, Christy, you had a chance to walk around a little bit and wander too. Give me some of your thoughts on the pavilions themselves.
Well, they were an entire day's experience all unto themselves. I felt like I didn't get to see any of them thoroughly enough, and that was really all I was trying to get to see. They were very well organized, well spaced out, and almost any time that I did go by, there were even lines for them, and they had queued up. They knew that there would be lines to see the Tinkerbell presentation and to play the game, or to be able to meet a character artist who was drawing Tinkerbells. And they had a great area where you could learn how to draw different characters with Disney animators. It was like walking into a Disney theme park. And, sort of that excitement of where do I go first and what experience do I want to be able to enjoy? I was very impressed at how, I guess, the incredible level of detail that went into all of these. These weren't just little booths. These were full out experiences, each one of them.
Yeah, and I think there's one of them I want to talk about more specifically, but any of you guys, other two, and let's save the Parks and Resorts Pavilion for last. But in terms of the other pavilions, give us some of your thoughts, Tony, and then maybe Scott and Susanna and Becky. some of the pavilions, things that stuck out to you that maybe impressed you, surprised you, whatever it may be?
I was really excited for the big unveil behind the blue curtain for the Tomorrowland pavilion that they had. I thought it was cool. It was almost like an interactive experience, like a game as much as it was a pavilion about the movie. So I was really excited to see that. And I think it was pretty cool how they didn't announce it on the first day. They left it, and it kept people wondering. For me, that was a lot of fun. And then just the walking around the pavilions, I was really excited to see there was a lot of tech in the pavilions this year. There was a lot of interactive game pavilions, the video game stuff. So to see all of that and get a chance to play with that was like bringing out the kid in me. So I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, I also like the Tomorrowland exhibit that they had, which was incorporated into that movie Tomorrowland that's coming up. I do think a problem is that when they unveiled that blue curtain, there were really only 1.5 days to explore that, and so their lines were crazy for that, because they would give you an iPad and you'd go through all these exhibits to discover all of these lost things that they had found. And maybe they should have done that on the first day, so there would have been an extra day for people to have seen that. But anyway, that was very impressive, and also the Disney Infinity present booth was pretty neat. They were showing off that new game that they have, and also the animation. They had lots of giveaways that people were all crazy for, and even just the Dream Store and the Mickey's of Glendale stores that people were just clamoring to get all of the merchandise for. Those were fun too.
Yeah, and if anybody didn't make it out to the Disney Infinity booth, I'm sure they can go to Scott, Susanna's, mine, Christie's, or Tony's house and experience them all right there, because it came out yesterday, and we all know what our kids or we have been doing ever since. So.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm like instantly obsessed with Disney Infinity.
Yeah, Skylander who? Very quickly, I want to just touch, and I want to give you guys a chance to tell me your thoughts, but you mentioned the Tomorrowland booth. And I thought, and this is what I really, really like what Disney has been doing as a whole, and we'll talk more about this, from a 30,000-foot perspective at one point, but the Tomorrowland Pavilion at the Expo ties into this very sort of cryptic, Lost-style tease of this Tomorrowland film, right? The way they're sort of releasing information about it. They have this very interesting online alternate reality experience. And I don't even know how to, nobody who's even involved in the Optimist knows how to explain what it is. There's this Twitter account and this blog to follow and photos that are getting released. In the collector's forum, there was a Cartography by Disney little booth where you could go and meet Wallace. And it all is very, very, the deepest layer of the onion for the geeks that really want to dig it. And I love that, because it wasn't just, here's some information, go through, we're laying it on with a trowel. You sort of have to work for it if you want it, and it's a mystery for you to unravel, and it really is a great tease for the film and the online experience. And the fact that they brought it into, onto the show floor and into sort of a real reality from the alternate reality, I think is really, really smart on Disney's part. And if anything, it got people curious and it got people talking about something that maybe they hadn't been aware of before. But that curtain drops, you see that big Tomorrowland booth, and they're giving you an iPad, and they're walking you through, and there's all these mystery things. It's very, very intriguing, even for sort of the top layer Disney fan. Scott, I know you were going to say something about, because you've been sort of following the whole Wallace Optimist thing, right?
Susanna and I actually, we did all of that, but Susanna was going to describe that.
Well, I'd been following along the Optimist blog, I guess the Story Orbit blog beforehand. But yeah, I agree with you completely that there's so many different levels of involvement. You could have been following along this whole sort of, third-party story where this fictional girl's grandfather, she was trying to find out information on him, and then this Wallace cartographer came into the picture. And, people out in California could go to actual sites like Walt's Barn and Disneyland and things like that to find more clues. And then it all culminated at the Expo with his booth. And then he handed out the map to go on another little scavenger hunt. But then, it combined with the Tomorrowland little booth there and the preview and the studios thing. So if you didn't want to do all of that scavenger hunt, you didn't want to really get involved that much in all this mystery, you could just follow through the little thing with the iPad and learn more about, the mysterious box that they found and things like that. So you didn't have to be super nerdy, but you could be if you wanted to be. And I just loved that level of, interactivity and the detail that they went through. Like, because we did the little thing where you had to go over to Disneyland, and the cast members that they had helping you out and things like that were just unbelievable. You would think that, they were really part of, the experience where they were actually just cast members. So it was amazing.
Yeah.
That's what I loved so much about it, because honestly, I hadn't heard a lot about this before Expo, and to see it kind of virally grow its own limbs and its own life right in front of me as things were being unveiled, and people coming past the booth with neat little pins that I had never seen before. And I would point it out and say, where did you get that? And they would start telling me about the quest that they had to go on, and the person they had to meet in Disneyland started drawing me in to where I wanted to find out more and I wanted to get more involved. So it was very intriguing.
Yeah, they actually had parts of the game where you would have to ride the Lily Bell around Disneyland, and they even had it so that they closed off the Main Street Cinema, and they even changed the films in there with very intriguing animation about Walt and futurism and optimism and basically the whole World's Fair exhibit, and that is where the pins were presented. It was really a very dramatic presentation they had in there.
So that's what I mean. This is so very well thought out, and it covers not just, the studios is not just pushing this out. This is going, into the parks and resorts. It's going onto the show floor. The fact that the Wallace booth was in the collectors forum was I think, a very interesting and smart, very deliberate choice. So it did not look as though it's a PR thing, right? It's a marketing thing. It almost looked as though it was very organic, right? And he was just a guy sort of having his booth there.
Yeah. He was perfectly in character, and, it was like you were meeting this man that was into making Disney maps, and he wanted, you to join in on this quest and join your fellow optimists to find out the clues. It was great.
Yeah, a very deep layer to the onion, and I like that because it's there if you want it, right? But going back to what you guys were saying before about sort of something for everyone, especially now as my kids are starting to get older, and Tony and Christy and you guys can, Susanna too, when we go to places like this, and obviously we leave our kids home because mommy and daddy are working. I was very much aware of stuff that was going on at places like the Disney Channel booth, for example. Not just because I'm a huge fan of Gravity Falls, but you knew that was coming. But,
Jeez, here we go.
But I will tell you that one of the biggest lines I saw was not for Menken and Sherman. It was for the Teen Beach Movie people. Right? Yeah. So at the top layer of the onion, the kids and the teens and tweens and their 45-year-old dads that want to meet the cast of Gravity Falls, that was something really exciting. And you're talking about a very high-energy booth. You get a chance to meet the stars, and you can get up on stage and take a picture with them. I mean, there really is something for everyone. And you can, don't tell our kids, but you can actually take your kids to Expo because there's something for them to do there as well. We even saw the play areas, right? Those little like giant Lego block style play areas. Disney really wants to invite the whole family to this, and I really got a sense of it this time.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I saw that.
There were a lot of kids in those play areas and things too. I was really happy because I don't remember that as much 2 years ago.
I know, and they were all bigger than me too.
But there really were kids in all levels of the presentations and activities and booths, and they seem to really be enjoying this and seeing, why Disney could be something that you love all your life, not just, when you're little and watching Mickey Mouse Clubhouse.
And even the stuff outside, right? They had the Phineas and Ferb, the Waffleinator, and sort of the Marvel and Phineas and Ferb thing that was coming up just this past week. So there was interactive stuff like that as well too. Tony, you were going to say something?
Yeah, my kids came on the last Expo. We had a whole family vacation before and after the Expo, and there were things for them to do, but I don't think it was as much as they did this time. They really, they had the smaller areas, they had play areas, but it wasn't even big production things, just a lot of fun stuff for the kids. The outside thing, my kids were at home watching our broadcast, and they had to know. They went on the D23 Expo app, and I had to go see what the Waffleinator was for my kids and send them back photographs of it. And I missed them on this trip because I always miss them, but the first time it was this time when I was leaving, I was like, well, there's not that much for them to do. And Disney really upped their game with the kid stuff. And it was a lot of fun. We saw the giant Tinker toys made out of foam, and we were playing with them. It was really cool stuff.
And I saw how you were swooning at the cast of Dog with the Plug, too. So, there's something for all of us there.
Yeah, but the whole Teen Beach movie thing was unbelievable. I was wondering what was going on, if they were lining up for an arena presentation or something, because it was 5 times what seemed like anything else was. It was unbelievable how they lined up for that.
Hey, look, I'm not going to lie. One of the highlights for me was the Gravity. I was going for my kids, but I'm like, look, one day you're going to love Gravity Falls as much as I do, and you say, you know what, Lou, you were right. I remember.
It's a hat with a tree.
It's Scooby-Doo for a new generation. Alex Hirsch, brilliant. Genius, my friends. He's genius. Anyway.
Can't wait to see it.
Let's go. Let's talk about the elephant in the room, right? Which is the Parks and Resorts exhibit. The journey into Imagineering, 60 years of, WED and Walt Disney Imagineering. This, for me, is the one that, you walk in and is right in front of your face. And far and away, I spent the most amount of time here. I was in there no less than 4 times, and it still was not enough, because it really was that peek behind the curtain into Imagineering. They make it look like 1401 Flower Street, and when you walk in there were all these little sort of cubicles and cubbies and desks. And what I've loved about this pavilion in the past, they again increased this time, because it gives you a chance not just to see what Imagineering is doing, right, and how they got there, the history of Imagineering, but what they're doing now, like what their workspaces look like. And you've always had a chance to get one-on-one to an Imagineer, something you could never do anywhere else. The people that want to be Imagineers who are fascinated with the parks, here's your chance to get in front of somebody whose name you don't know, or a Jason Sorrell, or whoever it may be, and talk to them, and they'll spend time with them. But when you see them in these work environments, they almost took on these characters and personas as though you were really stepping into Flower Street. You were getting a tour of Flower Street. And that's what I loved, right? Everything from the simple look into the past, like the Ellen Shaw and Ryman paintings and drawings, to the Avatar stuff and the tease for Star Wars. Seeing how simple things like paint on a cell gets to paint on a wall in a theme park in Tokyo. The technology, the research, development. I spent hours there, and I wanted to spend more. I'd love to sort of go around the horn and get your guys' thoughts, because we could do a whole show on this alone, right? Yeah. I know, Becky, you spent way too much time with the Captain America meet and greet. That's fine. Scott Odos tried to steal the model for the land pavilion, the original model. I get it. But let's sort of go around, Christy, Tony, Becky, Susanna, Scott, your thoughts and impressions on the Imagineering thing, or maybe the one thing that really sort of stuck out to you.
What jumped out at me was how incredibly long it must have been for them to develop that pavilion. I'm thinking in terms of, how do you organize something like that? They've been working on getting that ready since the last Expo ended. The level of detail in every one of those sections was absolutely unbelievable. And just a shout out for seeing Figment standing there with his little blocks. That made my day. I saw that and I didn't need to see any more. But it was truly just like, a Disney geek's little slice of paradise in there. I wish I could have spent more time in there.
Yeah,
Tony?
I liked the balance of everything in there. I like that you kind of saw they had the old models of the land and Spaceship Earth, so you kind of saw the past. You saw what they're doing and how they do it, with how they paint, how they program the audio animatronics figures. I loved how they throw the little teasers in there with the Star Wars teaser. It didn't give you too much, but the Jason Sorrell did a great job of kind of teasing along, got me excited. I love seeing how they do the new tech with the what was the creepy guy there?
El Fortuno. Scott Otis. Scott Otis. Oh, wait, the other creepy guys. El Fortuno.
But I thought it was great. But they showed you what they've done, what they do, and how they do it, and what they're going to do. So I really like that. I like it was a full package. It was more than just, hey, look what's coming. It was, this is what Imagineering is, and I really appreciated that.
And I want to just piggyback on that really quickly. The one thing, too, if you were not there, this is not a stand behind the velvet ropes, go from museum piece to museum piece. You're walking into these offices. They want you to touch and interact with these spaces. It's a very, very hands-on pavilion, and we'll talk about that in terms of things like the Adventureland game and stuff too. So, Becky, Susanna, Scott.
Yeah, it's extremely interactive. And one of the things I found funny was I was walking around looking, kind of casing it first to see where I wanted to spend time, because I knew our time was limited in there. And I actually overheard someone say that those weren't really Imagineers. And I was like, wait, no, these are the people. And you could tell how excited they were to share the story. So when you walked up to the Avatar desk, Chris and her team there were all excited to tell you about all the things that were brought back from their adventure that they just took on their research trip. And they jumped right into character, right into story, and you could tell that they were having as much fun telling us about that and about the effects that we saw, like how things are going to become interactive, like the effects on the lamp. Remember when we saw the genie lamp that lit up with a name that comes up on it, and all those neat things, and of course seeing the Hatbox Ghost. All of those Imagineers were just as excited to show us as we were to see it, and that's what I thought was so impressive.
Susanna, what about for you, and then Scott?
Yeah, I just agree that I could have spent hours and hours in there. It should have been open 24 hours, I think. It was so detailed, and like Becky was saying, that these were, the real things you were seeing behind the scenes, and they could have just done these dry, presentations like, here's what we're working on for the future, this technology, but you were right in there seeing the actual projects and the actual working models and all sorts of things. One of the things I really enjoyed doing was the little adventure corner there where you could do the little quests, I guess they were,
right.
And get the little juju trinkets. I don't know if that's going to be a future little interactive thing in the parks or something, but I thought it was great. And where Sorcerers is sort of like, it's interactive to a point, but it's kind of passive because you're just holding up a card. I think this adventure that they had in there was really true interactivity, and you had to tell a story, and you had to, participate and earn your little juju trinkets, and it was just amazing. I don't know, I could go on and on. There was so much to do there.
Yeah, and just very quickly, this sort of adventure trading experience is something that they are very much... Look, this was a play test for them, right? As opposed to bring it out into the parks, this is an opportunity for them to not only give us an experience, but for them to learn as well, right? They're getting immediate feedback from every aspect of that pavilion, but something like this, where they can play test it right on the show floor, where it's a retail sort of interactive experience where you can sort of purchase these jujus and tell your story and go on these quests and scavenger hunts and share with cast members and share with guests. Again, that deep level of interaction. I'm going to talk more about this as sort of an overall thing that I took away from the expo, but I loved that part of the experience. Again, this was not sort of a typical trade show pavilion. It was something that you can start there, you interact there. You almost felt as though, Susanna, right, you were sort of in a theme park type experience in Adventureland. They pulled a little section of Adventureland and put it there and then sent you out. Right, they sent you out on a quest, and then there were people from that walking around too with other jujus that you could trade for stories. Again, really like what they did there, and I think it is something we'll see in the parks, and this is that very early iteration of the play testing that they're doing.
Yeah, it was great to be a part of, and I thought it was great that if you had your little Imagineering sticker from when you went in the first time, you could go back in the back entrance if you were doing these quests or something and not have to wait in the huge line to get in. So I thought that was a great thing that they had planned for.
You tell me that now. Did you get the parrot, Juju? Did you get the parrot?
No, we only got the tree and then the skull, and we went to the Trader Sam's and got that one at the end.
I think there was 9 or 10 how many? 12 jujus you can get?
Started doing it too late and missed out.
Are they really called jujus? This is what I want to know.
They're called
okay.
jujus.
Yeah. Just checking.
Not like juju bees, like candy. It's a little juju, yeah.
I didn't get to sit there and see them, but I saw all of you like walking around with these things as prized possessions. So that tells me it's going to be a thing.
They had somebody walking around the show floor with a vest full of the parrots, and I said, I started engaging her while we were doing the show, and she said, I'll trade one for a story. Give me something to trade and trade me a story. And so I had to make up this, weird story, and I was able to earn the juju that way. So Scott, give me your thoughts on the pavilion itself.
The pavilion was great. I mean, first off, the exterior that looked just like the old 1401 Flower Street, which is a beautiful building. And then actually, everyone forgot about the little pre-show that you see when you go in there. That they always put together an amazing little pre-show that just gets you completely excited about all the future projects. That's probably about 4 or 5 minutes, but a lot of really great stuff. And then when you get in the pavilion, there's all these booths that had so many crazy, amazing things. I really love seeing Herb Ryman's original drawing of Disneyland, Peter Ellenshaw's the glow in the dark painting of Disneyland. That was amazing. And then just as you said, seeing the models of the old concepts of Spaceship Earth and the land, and they even had the Hatbox Ghost that they had brought for everyone to see, and he was animated, so he would look at you straight in the eyes, and that's kind of freaky.
Yeah, and talk to the animators as they're animating the Hatbox Ghost. That's what I mean. But you're not sort of standing back watching them do it. You're talking to them as they're you're learning if that's what you want to do about it.
Right, and what was really neat about the whole thing was that there were probably maybe about 20 different booths, but they all had different elements. Like some people that were into show design, some that were into material design, some that were into computer concepts. It was really neat. But then additionally, as Susanna had mentioned, or someone else had mentioned, the Avatar tease, which really was a tease, they weren't saying that. The Imagineers that were working on that project, they weren't saying, yeah, we're working on this. They were in character. Like, they had actually traveled to Pandora. A friend of mine, Alex Wright, Imagineer, he had told me, 6 months ago, we all went on a field expedition to Pandora and they had brought back all this amazing things so that they could get this Avatar exhibit right. And then, of course, the Orange Harvest with the Star Wars tease. And then... And on top of all that, they actually had several of the clues for that Optimist game that we had earlier talked about. People were going around in there with their maps. Several of the clues needed to be solved within that exhibit. So there really was a lot of interactivity in there, and it was a lot of fun.
And that, for me, is my takeaway, right? Not just about the Imagineering Pavilion, but I think for me, the Expo and what Disney is doing as a whole. Right, we've seen the handwriting on the wall in the past when you look at things like Sorcerers of the Magic Kingdom, right? My Magic Plus. It's a more interactive, more personal, deeper, richer experience. No longer is it you come into a park, you see a show, you sit down, and it is presented to you. It is all about you not just being a part of it and being interactive and it being personal to you, but the guests are helping to create the story as well. That Adventureland story game, El Fortuno, that next generation of what we saw in 2011 with Destiny, that little fortune teller. Zoltar's come a long way because that audio animatronics figure that's responding to you and the people in the room, you not only get to see it work and are fascinated by it, but right next to it, there's an Imagineer explaining to you, this is how it's being done. Right, there's lasers. They're scanning your face. They're measuring distances and heights and things like that. And you're getting an understanding of the technology behind it. They're getting the immediate feedback to see what works, what doesn't work, what people are responding to. The My Magic Plus, even things like Disney Infinity, right? It's not just a video game where here's the story, here's the quest you have to go and do. It's creatable, shareable, buildable content that we are now creating. My kids have been playing since I brought it home at 12:01 last night, and the thing that they like most is what's surprising me. They like toy box mode. They like to be in there, not playing the game that's the story is being laid out there. They like to create their own environment. That's where we are in 2013 and going forward. That's what Disney is very much picking up on. right? You are now going to help create and generate what your experience is going to be like. And I think I got that as an overall feel, not just from this pavilion, but from a lot of the things we saw on the show floor as well. And I like the direction that that's going. And I applaud Imagineering and sort of Disney as a whole for realizing that that's what we as guests want in sort of a deeper, richer experience.
You're no longer just listening to the story. You're no longer just watching the story. You're actually creating the story and being part of the story in so many aspects of what the company is doing, and that's super exciting.
Yeah, and I want to just quickly touch on, and again, I think the big presentations were obviously those that took place in the arenas, the studios. We didn't get any sort of new groundbreaking announcements. There was some excitement and surprises when people like Angelina Jolie, and I just want to call him locally, Tom Hiddleston, comes out on stage and they talk about some of the upcoming films, the Legends ceremony as well too. I didn't get a chance to see it, but I know people really enjoyed seeing these legends up on stage. But I think for a lot of people, guys, and you correct me if I'm wrong, the thing that was circled on everybody's schedule was not just Gravity Falls, because that was first, but it was the Richard Sherman, Alan Menken, once-in-a-lifetime concert that took place on Saturday night. Like, people were talking about, they were lining up for that Saturday during the day because it was that important to them. And I think for a lot of people, like, that was worth the price of admission. So anybody feel free to jump in and give me your thoughts on Sherman and Menken.
It was like hearing your whole life experience in song. Like listening to everything that you've ever grown up with and seeing the men who created it. I cried. I was very excited. And when they sang together at the end, It's a Small World, it sort of like brought together like what Disney is all about for me. And it was very, very moving. I was glad to have been there with friends because it made it an even sweeter experience.
Yeah, I was blown away by the concert in that it was great to see Richard Sherman perform again. We got to see him on the cruise, and I love his songs, and I'm a huge fan. But it was my first time to be there for an Alan Menken performance, and you almost forget, you don't realize just how incredible a contribution he made to Disney music. Movies and songs that you knew, songs you forgot, you didn't even realize he wrote. It was unbelievable. He came out with a huge stack of papers and said, I got a lot of material to get through, and it seemed like it was done in a second, all songs that you grew up with and you knew. And it was really like I said that I was thankful to these two guys because it's almost like they wrote the soundtrack to my life, in that I'm a huge Disney fan, and these are just songs that I knew every word to. And to sit there and have the gentlemen that came out of their head that they just brought to this world, to have them perform it for me live was remarkable.
Becky, after I explained to you who Alan Menken was, what did you think of it?
Wow, really? No, you didn't need to explain that because he's got the best name in the entire world. It's just spelled a little differently. But what was really neat about that concert, of course, is seeing them both together. Because I had seen Richard Sherman separately and had seen Alan Menken separately as well. But to see them both together on the same stage, and like Tony said, a soundtrack to your life, that really is very true, because that was how we grew up, listening to all of those wonderful tunes and hearing, again, going back to the story set to music, which can really play on emotion. And it was even more emotional to have them live right there in front of you. And then, of course, together at the end, it's almost like the meeting of a couple of different generations that all had a lot to do with the storytelling of Disney.
Scott and Susanna?
Yeah, and each one of them probably went, 45 minutes long? But I don't think anybody cared, because they could have just gone on and on and on, and each one was just amazing. So I think it probably did go at like an hour and a half or 2 hours late, but it could not have been long enough as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, it was just so amazing and inspiring to see someone that had worked with Walt Disney directly, and then someone else that had worked with, who's that other guy? Sorry. Howard Ashman. For the songs that, the
Good
new
save.
generation had grown up with. And it was just great to see them together. Originally, I had thought that they were going to be performing together, but they did their own little finale at the end And I think it was great. Just hearing even, a little tidbit of the stories behind the songs is always wonderful to listen to.
Yeah, and during the concert, we saw people, different songs resonated with different people. Just like at the Expo as a whole, I think different things resonated with different people. Look, we saw some people who clearly were there for one thing and one thing only, merchandising. Like they were there, they ran to the Dream Store, they ran to the Consumer Products booth, or even to the Collectors Forum or Mickey's of Glendale, because merchandise was important to them. But I do want to talk about the Collectors Forum, because for me, when the first Expo was announced, and still to this day, that is one of the things that not just I enjoy because it's where we are, but I like the fact that it's there, that it's still present at, look, this is the Disney D23 Expo. This is their trade show. And the fact that they allow and invite third-party people to come in to share their goods, their wares, their services, their stories, whatever it may be, and be a part of the Expo like everybody else on the show floor really impresses me a lot. And I consider it a privilege to be able, it's an expensive privilege, but I consider it a privilege to be there on the floor. And I love the forum because it is where the fans are, right? It is where the fans are. And you see that this is sort of where I think the community aspect really comes in, right? You'll stand online and meet other people for your favorite pavilions, but you saw this is where a lot of people were hanging out, because there were people selling everything from pins to ride vehicles to artwork and everything in between. And for us, especially all of you guys, this was our kind of home base. Again, we teamed up with Mouse Van Travel. We had a great big booth this year. And again, use this as the location where we broadcast, God help us and save us, all 3 days from beginning to end. But I had such a blast this year, especially making it kind of the home base. And one of the things I loved was we continued to improve the booth, squishy carpet. I didn't think it was a big deal, but I realized again how important it is.
Becky was right.
The thing that we added this year, that we did last year, was we had a friend of ours come in he's an artist. He is an artist, and Tony, you said it. He's an artist whose medium is balloons. I call him affectionately Balloon Boy. His website is trickybiz.com. John Reed created a 20-foot tall, 8.5-foot high balloon replica of the Disney Dream / Fantasy and elevated it, 14 feet above our booth. That was one of the highlights for me, because you want to talk about that visual weenie that drew people over, and it was beautiful. It was truly a work of art.
Amazing. Absolutely amazing job that he and his assistants did on that sculpture. It really was. And at the end, I really hated to see the thing come down, because if there was a way to preserve it, I would have, because that was completely great. I have to ask you something, Lou, though. When you got your little juju, was the story you told them that you blew up every single one of those balloons yourself the week before?
No, I made up this fantastical story about how back in the early 50s, Walt and I had gotten together and talked about our initial concepts for what this Disney D23 Expo was going to be like.
I knew you were older than me.
And unfortunately, the plans got put on hold, like so many things. But like no good idea at Imagineering, nothing ever dies, and they brought it back in 2009. Okay, my story was a little weak, but I got my parrot juju anyway.
Going back to the Collectors Forum, you're so right. I love the community atmosphere back there. I love seeing all the different artists, all the different collectors, all the different things that you could, if you had a credit card there and you didn't have a limit, you could get yourself in a lot of trouble really, really fast. But to also have several people did have areas that you could sit and relax and talk and meet people and get to know people. And while we didn't get to see everything on the floor, I didn't even get up to the second floor at all because we were spending so much time in the booth, but that was okay because there were so many great people that came to the booth that you interviewed, a lot of wonderful people that I got to meet for the very first time that got out of the box, or people who have never been in the box before and now they're going to be in the box because they had met some of us. And I just think that it's a, like you said, an honor to be part of it.
And one of the things that was fun was, look, my part of the Expo, and I said this when we were on the air, the thing that I enjoyed most about Expo was the people, right? The people that I had a chance to meet, the people that came by the booth, whether they were listeners, new friends, the cosplayers, the Imagineers. Because look, one thing about the Collectors Forum, the people who are walking around there also included the people who you may have seen on stage an hour earlier, because remember, these guys are fans too. Right. And the great dynamic about the booth this year was we were able, thanks to all of you guys, we were literally able to, oh, look, Tony Baxter's walking by, pull him in, sit him on the couch, and we're going to get him on the air. And so we were able to interview people like now Disney legend, Imagineer Tony Baxter, Kevin Rafferty, Jason Sorrell, Brian Cosby, Ridley Pearston, Stacia Martin, Stephen Lawrence, Margaret Kerry, Tinkerbell, Bill Rogers, the voice of Disneyland, and his beautiful wife, forgive me, I forget her name, who's the voice of Disney California Adventure, came by. Everybody from the D23 team, Stephen Clark, Jeffrey Epstein, Laura Sanchez, the cosplayers, Kermit the Frog, not the official one, but the guy who had his Kermit puppet came by and put on a show, and it was a sing-along, and I just was looking out at all the people who gathered and people watching in the booth. It was such an amazing, organic dynamic that was created there. It was exactly what I hoped it was. And I hope the people who either were at the booth watching or on the floor or who were watching live at home got that same kind of energy and dynamic that I felt. And I don't know what you guys sort of give me your thoughts about the forum, the booth, whatever it may be. And I also have to give, and I'm saving the best for last, my buddy Noah, amazingly talented Disney artist. Once again, his booth was next to ours. This guy had a line all day, every day, but at the end of Expo, he comes over, again, unannounced, completely organic, starts talking to us, sees what we're doing. We asked him to sign these blank vinylimations, which are going to auction off for the Dream Team project for the Make-A-Wish Foundation. Next thing you know, he goes, I'll be right back. He goes, he grabs some pieces of art. He's going to sign them, personalize them, make them unique. We do a live auction right then and there. And Christy, what was the number? We raised about $2,600?
$2,650.
Right. So $2,650 raised in about, 15, 20 minutes time?
Yep.
All thanks to him. So if you guys are on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, the web, just search Noah Fine Art and give that guy some love, because he's a talented guy and he's a good guy as well too. And I'm immeasurably grateful to him and everybody who donated and bid and put it out there to make that happen. So, but yeah, so anybody just sort of jump in and sort of your thoughts about the booth and the interviews and the dynamic and the fun that we had there.
Yeah, I'll start. As a person who wasn't tied to the booth and wasn't there as much as you all were, going around the Collectors Forum and seeing all the people selling all the old Disney merchandise, or the Carolwood Pacific, showcasing their wares. You actually had a very unique product, which was basically a live radio show that was going on the entire expo, and that really was unique. And every time we did come over there was always somebody very interesting, like a Dave Smith or a Tony Baxter, that you were interviewing, and it was very captivating. And I at no point did I want to leave, because there was so much good information being done. So from an outsider's perspective, I thought it was a great booth.
Thank you. That's right. We're done. Good night, everybody.
It was almost like you had your own little mini expo going on.
Exactly.
So it was a really great, like he said, every time, I walked by, there was always something exciting happening, and it made you want to stop and see what was going on. And if you did miss a presentation or a session that you wanted to see, chances were whoever was, running that session might be at your booth at any time. So it was really a treat for everyone to be able to walk by and see that kind of heavy hitters and entertainment going on there.
Nobody has more fun than us.
That's right.
A lot of smoke and mirrors, but nobody has more fun than us.
The realization for me was again that reminder that these wonderful Disney icons who I look up to so much really are the fans just like us. And Tony Baxter is saying, well, I was just looking around at some of the merchandise, and you're like Dave Smith talking about how he would look around and try to find things he needed for the archives. And it's just that, wow, we're all just so, enamored with this wonderful Disney message and product. And it made me feel like we were part of something even more special, because we're all part of that fandom of the Disney community.
And getting to talk to them like that one-on-one in a very small, intimate environment. They're regular people, right? Yep. Like you said, Tony, Stacia Mountain was so excited because she found a record. This tiny little 45 record. She was ecstatic. And then you see the body of her work, and you talk to, guys like Tony Baxter, who's excited because he sees something he wants to add to his collection. When you're talking to Kevin Rafferty about where he likes to eat, like that's the kind of stuff that makes it fun. And I agree with you because these guys are clearly enthusiasts first, like us.
Yeah, it was when we're there setting up the booth and working, and you would think I'd be more bummed out that I'd missed some of the presentations and we didn't get to do a bunch of stuff that was on the official schedule. But in the end, it was just the real fun was seeing everybody, talking to people, to be part of the community there and really get to see and finally meet a bunch of people that you knew from online or that knew us from the show. At one point when you're in the booth and you're interviewing people and there are Imagineers in our seats, that the folding chairs that we brought and set up, and they're sitting there and it was just a free-for-all and everybody's laughing and talking and listening. And Tony Baxter gets up and his friends from his party, he was like, okay, we have to go now because a crowd forms around him instantly. And a couple of his friends were like, we're going to hang out. This is cool. And I had to tell Lou about it because she's like just hanging out there. I just want to see what's going to happen next. And she's asking me questions. And it was incredible. It was an amazing experience to be part of that, the life of it, as opposed to just kind of viewing it.
The energy, right? I think the energy there was great. And that was created by all of you. Like it was nothing that we had nothing scripted, right? Like this, nothing is scripted. We just sort of turned on the mic and started to go. So that energy came from all you guys in the booth and from everybody who came by. And I'm so incredibly grateful because I didn't just have a great personal expo myself, but hopefully the people who were there watching live or on the box got that sense as well too. And the feedback I've received so far from people who are watching was that they felt like they were there, and that was the goal. So
yeah, it was great fun, and it's like a flash when you look back at it. We're talking to the box, we're talking to people live. People are contacting you on Facebook. Your friends are texting you, and it's all happening 100 miles an hour. And I kind of turned to Christy and I said, I have a headache. She goes, yeah, it's because it's like 4:30 and nobody's eaten yet. because it's just manic. It's just happening. Right. Yeah. And then we're all sitting there at 7 p.m. on Sunday, like, what just happened? Like, it couldn't possibly be over. So much, but it was like, in some ways it felt forever. In other ways it was a flash. It was really remarkable.
I liked how the word got around that we had a booth cam as well, because there were people that were coming just to the booth and asked nothing else, just where's the booth cam? Because I want to wave to my friend or my family member, and they would sit there and they would text or they would call somebody and they would wave at the booth cam and off they went. So there were so many different levels to the booth, and of course, to have the live radio thing going on at the same time, like you said, it was all about the energy. And again, I also want to throw out a couple of props to my team as well, who aren't represented here. They, of course, kept that energy going as well. And there was a lot of impromptu dancing going on and some other entertainment, line dancing happening. So, kudos to them for staying on their feet for 3 days as well.
And even, I mentioned before, I learned the term cosplay last Expo in 2011. Full force. People were out in, talk about just an environment where you can just be yourself and have fun. And that we'd see a princess walk by. We would see Wreck-It Ralph characters walk by. The people who were on the show with us weren't just Imagineers and Disney celebrities. They were just regular people, fans like us, who were sharing their love for Disney. And it was a lot of fun to meet people from all walks of life, all ages, all levels of, fan intensity. There were some princesses there who they were princesses. Like that's, that was their thing. Little kids, older people, the old guy dressed like Grunkle Stan. So it was a blast. And I'm sure we all were glad to hear, and it's, they confirmed it there for us, Stephen Clark. Expo is coming back. Again, it's an every other year event. It is going to be back again in 2015. It is going to be in Anaheim once again. I know we're all excited, but let's just sort of again go around the horn. Is there anything that you, as much as there was here, is there anything else you'd like to see added, changed, removed, something else you'd like to see represented again, sort of Scott, Susanna, Becky, Tony, Christie?
I'll tell you what really needs to be added is a fourth day.
Which is what it was the first year.
Yes, the first year, 2009, there were 4 days, and even that wasn't enough time to see it all. We just really need more time to see everything. It's great to have all these presentations, and they had the the animation presentation up against the Dave Smith talking about Mary Poppins, all up against the Hong Kong Mystic Manor. All three of those were all up against each other. It would be nice to have more time to be able to see some of these presentations. Maybe even if they did have a fourth day, maybe some of them could even be repeated. That's pretty much what I would like, is just more time. There just really wasn't enough time to see it all.
Susanna, what about for you?
I guess, yeah, I agree with that. There being more time. I loved like I said before, the Imagineering Parks and Resorts presentation, and I wish there was a way to, I don't know, just have that be like a separate thing that's going on the whole time, because we really didn't get into it until, I think, even the second day. We didn't even go in it the first day at all, so we missed out on being able to do some of the interactive things in there. I think they made great improvements, like we said before, with the lines and things like that, the stage pass. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what else, they could add that would entice more people to go, because I think it was just really a home run this year.
Becky?
Wow. I'm sitting here trying to think of an answer.
And nothing is okay. If you say nothing, that's okay too.
The more time thing is good, because what I actually want Disney to do is create a 36-hour day, because with all these new things in Infinity and catching up now on Gravity Falls for some reason, and planning the 2015 Expo booth, I need either more time or cloning technology. But I personally, I guess because we were so much part of the booth, I would have loved to have an opportunity to go shopping. I would have loved to have had an opportunity to see a couple of things that were going on the floor, or maybe have the collectors forum be a little more central, just so that we have an opportunity to see more or to dart away faster. Other than that, honestly, it was such a wonderful experience. I can't really think of a lot that I would change, really.
Tony, Christy?
Yeah, I'm the same way. I don't know, aside from maybe a fourth day to give us more time to see things that are going on, I don't know what else I would change. I really enjoyed this event. I didn't wait on the lines like I did. There were lines, but I like that I don't know how to explain it. We were in line, informed while in line, so you knew what you're getting into. I enjoyed the exhibits. I look forward to just seeing different stuff, see something new. I really like that they changed things up. I was really happy with the event this year. I think I enjoyed it more than the last one. So I was really pleased.
Maybe Thor, the real Thor.
I mean, me as Thor?
No, see, I didn't get a chance.
I can't believe nobody brought that up, but let's move along.
I was going to. You passed right
Christy,
over
you have something
buddy,
important to say.
Hold on, no, stop. When we were talking about the different things that were on the floor, you just conveniently skipped right over me. And I was going to say the limited makeup stuff, the luggage that was there that was specifically only to D23, Infinity, of course, in the shopping. But I was it was an awesome surprise to turn the corner and see Party City with all of its costumes and all of it's for kids and for adults. And you attempted to dress up as Thor, and I give you props for that.
Yes, since you backed out of wearing your costume. Look, I'm a man of my word. I dressed as Thor.
I told you.
I kind of dug it.
All you had to do.
I felt.
I could tell.
I felt.
It was. He was the cutest little Thor you ever did see.
I know. He just needed the blonde wig and the hammer, and there'd be no
put
stopping
me in
the
your
guy.
pocket. Put a little keychain on me and hang
We're
me
going
from
to
your
do that
backpack.
again with the hammer. We have a lot of good ideas for the hammer, Lou and I. We came up with a lot of
stuff. Next year, in 2015, when you see that Snow White outfit, just do it. Just do it, and I'll do it. I promised you then, and I will do it. Move on.
Christy, go ahead. I know you. Go ahead. Give me your.
No, it's okay. Well, you know what? I think the way Disney pulled this all together is sort of the way of theme park experiences. They kind of left us always wanting more and always wanting to come back. And I'd love a fourth day. I'd love a fifth day. I want to be able to see everything. But, this is kind of that classic, I don't want to leave the parks, but now I get to start talking about and planning for the future. And I can't wait to see what they pull out in 2 more years. And I'm hoping there's more of the interactivity and the ways that we can become part of the story. But I kind of like that I'm left looking forward to a new time so I can see some new stuff as well. That's, you can't ever do everything in one trip to Disney World, and you can't ever see it all at D23 apparently either.
Yeah, for me, I didn't get a sense that I wanted more. I mean, I really was impressed. I felt like there was more this year in terms of both exhibitors and pavilions, because like you guys said, in addition to the Disney pavilions, there was Party City, there was Ride Makers, there was, the Orasma, the HP Orasma robotics exhibit. I mean, there was a lot of stuff going on for people to do and see and purchase. I really sort of walked away with, again, that sense of the guest steering the ship, right? A guest sort of creating the story, being a part of what we are going to experience. I also got a sense of community and involvement more than I did in past expos. I agree with, I don't remember who said it, the first expo for me will probably always be the best because we walked in there blind. Nobody knew what to expect, and we were blown away by the overall experience, from the presentations to the announcements to the surprises to the people on the floor to what the box and booth cam started off being in sort of it was a goof that ran for all 4 days and made people come to the expo because they saw what they were missing. That for me will always be the best, but I did really enjoy this one more than the last, and I mean that as a testament to the D23 people, because they're not just following what their initial mission of this fan club was supposed to be, but they listen and they learn and they improve. And I think that's one of the things that Disney does so very well. It very much was all about the people I saw as opposed to what I saw. So, I mean, the people in the Collectors Forum, the people who came by the booth, the Imagineers at the exhibits, the people who were running the show, all those people are what makes this such an amazing event. It's the thing that we are already looking forward to 2015 now, and we're 6 days out from the 2013 one. To that point, I have to thank all of you guys who are on the roundtable with me, not just for taking the time tonight, but for all of your help in setting up at the booth, all the support, all the friendship. Becky, you and your team, everybody who came by and said hello or just waved hello, everybody who sat there in the box for 30 plus hours and watched, you don't know how important that is. You guys are the ones who really make this all possible, make this so much fun. And as much as we've covered, we've missed a ton in this recap as well, too. So this week, I'm going to have a recap video up on the website. You can also subscribe to the YouTube channel at youtube.com/WDW Radio. Christy Visaki, the blog editor extraordinaire, has put together the self-titled, what'd you call it? Expolooza.
There's like 13 writers working with me this week.
And it's not just going to be a single Expo recap. You've got like 5 to 7 posts a day, like all week long, covering the Expo from every angle possible.
Yep, you should really feel like you were there by the end of the week if you follow our blogs.
Right, and you can obviously find the blog over at WDWradio.com. You can also subscribe to it there, get it delivered right to your inbox. Guys, I cannot, again, say thank you enough for making the Expo once again such a memorable event. To everybody at Disney and D23 and all you guys, I am grateful. And dare I say, I'm already looking forward to, God help us, 2015.
We got some planning to do. There should be, an 8-hour phone call in the next 2 weeks or so about it?
Tony, I promise I will bring a wrench and a screwdriver. That's it. We'll bring it. So, all right, Tony Caggiano, Christy Visaki, Becky Mankin, Zana Land, I can't even call by first name, Susanna Mitchell, and Scott Otis. Guys, thank you so very much for making the Expo so awesome. And thanks to all of you for listening. You were there with us virtually in spirit. So thank you again.
Yeah, thank you, guys. That was awesome.
Thank you.
Mini Thor. I'm like a little Thor, like a pocket-sized Thor.
Again, but we missed the blonde wig. We got to remember the blonde wig next time. You're so gonna make it Captain America, aren't you? You're gonna refuse unless you're Captain America.
We're gonna get you in a dress one of these years. I was talking to Scott. time for our Walt Disney World Trivia Question of the Week, where I invite you to test your knowledge of Walt Disney World history or trivia, see how well you pay attention to the details and what you see, or maybe even what you hear, then you can enter to win a Disney prize package. Before we get to this week's question, let's go back, review last week's, and pick our winner. So last week, we were thinking about Tomorrowland and even discussing the movie that's in production right now. You heard us talk about the booth at the D23 Expo. And while I was looking into the future, I was thinking back into the past, into Walt Disney World's Tomorrowland. And one of the most unique, somewhat scary, one of my favorite attractions, the extraterrestrial alien encounter. We talked about some of the attractions that occupied that space beforehand, like Flight to the Moon and Mission to Mars. And like many great Walt Disney World and Disneyland attractions, it not just has a great story, but a wonderful pre-show as well. And in the last iteration of the attraction, Tim Curry was the voice of Sir, your simulated intelligence robotics. However, you might not have known that he was not the very first actor to voice the role of a robot from XS Tech in that part of the pre-show. So the question was, last week, what actor did Tim Curry replace as the voice of the robot in the Alien Encounter pre-show? And because of D23 Expo, I gave you 2 weeks to answer and enter. So many entries. I think this is probably the one that we had the most entries for, and maybe I'll start doing these trivia questions bi-weekly to give you more time to enter and win. If you like that idea, email me, tweet me, Facebook me, let me know. Maybe you want me to have these contests every 2 weeks instead of every other week. And so while many of you in the emails you sent to me admitted that maybe you didn't see or even know this, but the actor that Tim Curry replaced was Phil Hartman from Saturday Night Live fame. He was originally known as Tom 2000, which is short for Technobotic Oratorical Mechanism Series 2000. He demonstrated XS Tech's practically painless teleportation technology. He also charred our little friend Skippy and again was eventually replaced by Sir. So once again, thank you and congratulations to the hundreds and hundreds, almost 1,000 of you actually entered this week's contest. And again, we randomly selected one winner for all of the audio walking tours of the Magic Kingdom, a WDW Radio luggage tag, a button, and a Walt Disney World trivia book. And this week's winner is Jamie Bernadetto. So Jamie, congratulations. Thanks for entering. Please send me your contact information. I'll get your prize package out to you right away. If you played last week and didn't win, thanks again for playing, but don't worry, because here's your next chance to enter in this week's Walt Disney World Trivia Challenge. So as we discussed on this week's show, we had a number of guests and celebrities and Imagineers come by the WDW Radio booth during the D23 Expo. One of them was Imagineer Kevin Rafferty, who worked on so many attractions, including the Nemo subs in Disneyland, Cars Land at Disney California Adventure, and so many more. But one of those attractions holds the distinction of being the very first that Walt Disney Imagineering created for 2 Disney parks simultaneously. And that's your question for this week. Tell me, what attraction, and the hint is that Kevin Rafferty worked on it, was the very first that Walt Disney Imagineering created for 2 Disney parks simultaneously? We'll do the question again as on a weekly basis for now, so you have until Sunday, August 25th at 11:59 p.m. to enter. Again, you're going to play for all the audio tours, a luggage tag, a button, a trivia book, and a surprise that I picked up from D23 Expo. You can email your answers to contest@wdwradio.com. So good luck and have fun. That's going to do it for this week's show. Thanks again for taking the time and tuning in this and every week. Once again, thanks to all of you who tuned in over at D23 Expo Live for our coverage of the D23 Expo. In addition to special event coverage like that, don't forget to tune in every Wednesday night at 7:30 p.m. Eastern for WDW Radio Live, video broadcast and chat. There you can watch and discuss this week's Walt Disney World news with us live in the chat room. And if you missed the show live, you can catch the audio on iTunes and the video on our YouTube channel. Speaking of videos, be sure and check out my new Disney in a Minute videos, both on the YouTube channel and on the WDWRadio.com website. There you can also find multiple daily blog posts from our team of contributors. You can sign up for a free email newsletter, download the free WDW Radio app, and chat with other Disney fans in our fun, family-friendly, and free discussion forums. Lots more, again, you can find over at WDWRadio.com. You know, I love hearing from you, so if you have a question you want answered on the air, you can email me at lou@WDWRadio.com or call the voicemail, leave a message at 407-900-9391. You can also connect with me on Twitter. I'm at Lou Mongello. And for updates on Facebook, visit facebook.com/WDW Radio. You can like the page there. And for personal updates, you can subscribe to my profile at facebook.com/Lou Mongello. In addition to events like the D23 Expo, we have more on-the-road events coming. Our e-ticket event, our dinner in the Great Movie Ride, is almost sold out. We are down to the last couple of tickets. Literally, we are in single digits. So if you're interested in coming to our Great Movie Ride private dinner and event on Friday, October 4th, visit the events page over at WDWRadio.com. There you'll also find out about other events coming up, including our Meets of the Month in Walt Disney World. Our next one is going to be this Saturday, August 24th, at Blizzard Beach. We're going to spend a day at the water park. I have updated information there as to where and when we'll meet. Again, it's open to everybody. Bring the whole family. It would be great to spend the day with you out at Blizzard Beach. Great way to sort of end out the summer. I also want to quickly thank my partners and sponsors. As you know, Mouse Fan Travel is my official and recommended provider because it's who I use. You've heard from Becky. You know her agents give you the best possible prices, all available discounts, all at no additional cost to you. You can find them over at mousefantravel.com. And if you want to get some Disney magic delivered right to your door, Celebrations Magazine, you can subscribe and order back issues over at celebrationspress.com. And finally, my friends, and you are my friends, whether we have met yet or not, all I ask is that if you like the show, please help spread the word. Let others know about it. Tweet out that you're listening. Come by the Facebook page, like it, comment it there, share links with your friends, and please come by, review the show and the app over on iTunes as well. And I once again want to say thank you to all of you, not just for following along and listening to the show and watching the broadcasts, but for giving me the opportunity to share my passion for Disney with you each and every day in so many different ways. I am immeasurably grateful for that. And I want you to do the same thing. I want you to live the life that you dream about. And so you need to believe, right? And if you're afraid of falling, you're never going to fly. Take a deep breath and take a leap of faith. Never give up. And always keep moving forward. Thanks again. I hope you guys have a great week this week. So until next time, see ya.
Hey, Lou, this is Michael from Birmingham, Alabama. Wanted to say, give you some feedback on the last episode you did with Chuck. That was a really great episode about the things to do on the water at Disney. I grew up on the Gulf Coast in Alabama, and I'm a Navy veteran, so I'm really at home on the water. And I just wanted to say some of my favorite things to do are just to take the transportation on the water, like the boat from the Poly to the Magic Kingdom, or go to the back of Epcot and take the boat and just take it on the loop. You can go to all those different resorts that it goes to, and even go near Hollywood Studios. So I just really like taking the boat transportation. I think it's a great thing to do and a unique thing to do, and I just enjoy being on the water at Disney. Thanks.
Hey, Lou. It is Wes Snyder calling in. Just listened to your most recent podcast about water activities, and 5 years ago, last month, my wife and I went on our honeymoon, and we did parasailing at Myrtle Beach. It was amazing. We would love to do it at Disney sometime. We've never done it because she's either been pregnant or we just haven't been able to fit it in the schedule. And I'm still hoping to spend one full year, 365 days at Disney sometime in the future. Financing is what I'm working on now, so if you have any generous millionaire listeners who'd like to donate to help a guy and his family get their year in, you're very welcome to send them my way. Anyway, great podcast, great newscast, and I'll see ya.
Hi, Lou. This is Richie from Westville, New Jersey. First of all, I'd like to say that my wife and I had a chuckle when you suggested in one of the Great Movie Ride episodes that there should be a snack stand called Admiral Snack Bars with the tagline, "It's a snack." Pure genius. But we'd like to go a step further and suggest that the signature item at that stand be, now envision this, giant fried calamari. Kind of like the Squiddish Admiral Akbar meets giant turkey leg. Kind of goofy, but what do you think? Also, I'd like to, if I may, respond to the question you proposed in this week's episode of listener emails regarding obscure movie references in Disney World. Now, I love older Disney live-action movies. Ones like Kidnapped, Blackbeard's Ghost, The Happiest Millionaire, The Gnome-Mobile, The Fighting Prince of Donegal. I love them. But my favorite obscure-ish one, if I can pick one, is Darby O'Gill and the Little People. I love that one. I think they should create an overlay and a mountainy type attraction like Big Thunder or the Seven Dwarfs Mine Train that could be rolled out every March for St. Patrick's Day. We would follow Darby into the mountain lair of the Leprechaun King Brian and chase all those little devilish leprechaun guys all over the place. Being Irish, I love the idea. Maybe they could even serve Guinness on tap in the exit gift shop. Well, that's my idea. This was a great topic, and I can't wait to hear the other listeners' ideas. Thanks for listening to me, and I love the show. See ya. Bye.
Hey, Lou. This is Marissa Lozano, or Dennis, or Yzma, or Countdown Girl. Take your pick of names. I guess you would like to. We're actually heading out today, which is slightly depressing considering it was a lot of fun. I had a great time at the Expo, did everything I could, and I always wanted to meet you guys and see you, and so that was a dream come true. Thanks for all that you did at the Expo. Your booth looked great, and if I do call you next time, or like on the voicemail, I guess we'll be back in Indiana. Bye.
You gotta